Unlock your potential with a comprehensive suite of investing tools and expert education with GammaEdge. Start your free 14-day trial today. What happens if we're up here and you're looking at something that effectively, I'm going to call this the gamma glob, because there's also this other 4200, which I think is really important. And you can see in terms of OI, it's relevant. I mean, there's 33,000 contracts there. 31,000 of them are puts with this morning's data. So add these two together and you've got 80,000 contracts, which between today or tomorrow and Friday are coming off of those strikes. So that's something to pay attention to. So Doug's asking, is this important? And so first of all, the structure around us down to 4175 or so is suggestive of just more blood in the streets. Again, in the money put dominated above us, out of the money put dominated at least down to 4175. The reason you're starting to see green down here, that's because even though you've got various and minor in the money call quantity, and you can do a put call ratio when you limit the time frame, because you're effectively just saying what's the ratio into the end of the week, and that's a valid thing to do. I think the big picture is telling you that these out of the money puts are decaying, but they're in play until we get down to that 4170. So this strike here is definitely in this, what I call a runway to get down here. So what are the mechanics that would make that work? So we know, for instance, we got a tremendous overhead of in the money put delta. And just like what Dan was just describing. So this right-hand plane is going to be red. It's going to be in the money puts. And for those that haven't already limited out to minus one in this case, or minus 100 notionally, they have charm. And so between now and Friday, what we're going to see is we're going to see more and more negative deltas in the overhead just until these go away, until the fear of losing this occurs. These are going to be present, and they're going to be a weight on top of us. It's going to be incredibly difficult for us to do anything here. So what's that mean? That means our book's getting shorter. It means the dealer's book's getting longer. And all things considered, there is going to be a weight to push us down. That's going to be gamma. As spot price drops in the mechanics, we're going to be picking up these little accelerants of delta. So it's not just a straight one-to-one, it's going to be amplified by the open interest as we convert an out of the money put to an in the money or at the money, 50-50 status. And that's just going to accelerate. And as we go through these big spikes right here, it's going to pull us on down. And arguably, you get a balancing point around this gamma glob area. Now, there's so much else that can go on with this, right? I'm very simplistic in how I'm describing this, but the mechanics of what's happening, if we sit on our hands and we just pick a starting point. I don't care what the starting point is. It could be the market gaps down in the morning and whatever, and you got to absorb all this gamma, or the market opens exactly where it closed tonight, and all we've done is just charm our way overnight, and we've got more deltas. Either way, the dealer is going to be compelled to remove deltas from their book, because our book got shorter, their book got longer, because they're on the opposing side of that trade, and they're going to push us down. And as they push us down, we're going to get more deltas, negative deltas added to our book. And you can see why a put-dominated environment now becomes a positive feedback sequence, why we get the volatility expansion, why we get into problems where you have just complete put domination around us. So we have to be mindful of what is going to happen. So one scenario, I'm not going to say it's guaranteed to happen. One scenario is that we continue to move down and we have to absorb the gamma and the deltas, negative deltas, because they're puts, and now they're in the money, and there's just going to be a weight that just pushes us down and keeps pushing us down. And you can see as we come on down, more and more deltas are going to extend down. Eventually, it's not going to be this level, it'll be lower, but eventually that will stop. Why will it stop? People will start monetizing their puts. We pause. It's that fear and greed. Who knows? We saw it today at 2:15 to 3 o'clock. We saw just this takeoff to the moon. A lot of calls got opened, and I would suggest a lot of puts got closed. And so, Doug, I think the way to think about this is very real, and we are in extremely close proximity. Now, on Friday, 39,000 of those contracts are either going to collapse to zero, or they're going to go to a -1 or -100. And depending on the moneyness on Friday, we'll have to deal with what does that mean in terms of those adjustments. And we'll see if those collapse to out of the money, the dealers will adjust accordingly, but we'll be down here. We could be lower. There is a scenario where you could easily create, I'm going to push through and possibly pin down underneath 4,200. And that's because of all this stuff being on top of us. All this is going to be limited out. There is going to be no charm, but there will be charm from this stuff, and that will continue to push us down. So even if we go to 42.05, remember the delta is going to be 50 at the money. And up until expiry, it hasn't limited, right? But if you get further and further down and your time to expiry gets shorter and shorter, your charm looks more and more like literally like, a little bell curve type thing. It's just, it's there or not. Here's what it looks like. It's going to look like something like this. This is today into expiry. This is what it looks like, right? You got a very clear, you're either in the money puts, or in the money calls or in the money puts. And that's why this is red up here. This is why it's green down here. So basically all these puts expired worthless today. All these calls expired worthless here. That's why this is red. This is green. This is what it's going to look like on Friday. It just depends on the time of day and where we are in that approximation.